and welcome back to Hook in Comics, a show where an AV guest that is American-born Korean speaker provides English language reviews of Korean language webtoons and comics. And the webtoon I'm going to be reviewing for you today is called 입학용병, which literally translates to Mercenary Entering School, and the English title for this webtoon is Teenage Mercenary. The webtoon is published by Naver Webtoon in Korea and also the Naver version of the webtoon app in the US. This webtoon is authored by a writer who goes by the pen name of YC and is illustrated by Lakyeon. This webtoon began publication in Korea in 2020. The English version started being published in 2021, and I began reading this webtoon in, I'd say, 2023. At this point in time, there are more than 225 chapters published in Korean, and there are more than 210 available in the English translation. The status of this webtoon is ongoing in both Korean and English, and as for me as a reader, I am up to date with the entire series in the Korean version, so I've read past 220 odd episodes. According to Naver, this webtoon is classified under the genres of action, 우정 or friendship, 가족 or family, 학원물, high school life, and 사이다. Now, the term 사이다 in Korean is kind of a loan word coming from English. It generally refers to a sparkling soda type drink like 7-Up or Sprite, but in the context of describing a genre, saida would refer to that feeling you get when you drink something that is carbonated and you feel really refreshed afterwards because it helps to digest in whatever way. And so if you imagine someone opening up a bottle of Sprite, taking a swig and going like, saida, that's that feeling of like, wow, so satisfied. And so saida as a genre generally refers to something that is really refreshing in the moment. And so it's usually used in situations to describe things that are like revenge plots or when a character gets exactly what's coming to them and you feel like, wow, this is so satisfying to get a resolution like this. And so the best way to translate this exact genre into English would be satisfying as a genre in and of itself. This drama centers around 19-year-old Yoo Ijin, who was the only survivor of a plane crash 10 years ago during which he lost his memory and both of his parents. After spending the last decade working as a child mercenary in war zones, he has now returned to Korea after getting his memories back and reuniting with his long-lost family, and is now trying to adapt to living a simple life as a Korean teenager and high school student. But when there are bullies and chaebols and pangpes in the mix, he somehow still manages to find himself in dangerous situations where his combat skills are needed. On top of that, the various spies, assassins, and underground organizations he previously crossed paths with keep appearing and upending his new life. So the question is, can he balance living as a normal teenager while fighting to protect the people he loves? And so that's enough about the background of this webtoon. Now I'm going to get into my review. I'm going to break it into 3 talking points: the characters, the storytelling, and the artwork. So first off, for characters and my ranking system, I would give this a 5 out of 5. I don't think I can find any fault with any characters I've seen come into the mix so far. I think this is so well written, and the author has done such a good job in making all of these characters 3-dimensional and lovable or hateable or whatever they were setting out to do for every single character. It's really perfect. Let's start off with the main character, Yoo Ijin. He is the definition of OP-ness when you're talking about characters who are just fully overpowered and they're filled with plot armor and it feels like they're unstoppable. This is the kind of character people are talking about when they say that. He spent the last 10 years basically fighting every day for his life. It was either kill or be killed. And so because of that, now as like a teenager entering high school, he's not even more powerful than all of his classmates and local gang members and thugs. He is so powerful that even the top assassins can barely lay a finger on him. His codename is so well known that it precedes him. He's on like some legendary level in the underground world. And on top of this character being so powerful, so quick, so swift, so good at fighting, he is simultaneously morally upright. He fights what he needs to do, but he doesn't use excessive force. He's generally not driven by emotions or revenge or anger, but really about taking care of people, doing the right thing, and protecting the people he loves. And so because he has such a good character, he's able to make friends almost everywhere he goes. And you see this in the way that people who are sent to either attack him directly or attack the people he's trying to protect end up being his greatest confidants very soon afterwards because of his mercifulness and his humility and meekness. Even though he's defeating them, he's not holding them accountable for the violent things that they were charged to do because of the job. And so because of that, people not only respect him because they see, wow, this guy is stronger and better and braver than I am, but they can immediately trust him and want to be on his side and root for him and what he's doing because they can see that he has a good heart, which makes for some amazing, totally unexpected team-ups that constantly happen throughout the series. The number of times people enter the plot and you think they're going to be his next greatest adversary, but then they end up becoming his greatest supporter is so refreshing to see every single time. Because Yui-jin is so likable and keeps making friends everywhere he goes, he ends up with a great crew of ride or dies around him, from his classmates to his co-workers to random local gang leaders who are always willing to assist him at the drop of a call, to like CEOs of Chiba companies who think that he is a kid with a great head on his shoulders and want to help him fight his causes. And that's just all the new friends he makes in his new life as a high school student. But then we have so many characters from his past, his former colleagues in the underground mercenary world, who, even though they all met in such a dark place, found real camaraderie and brotherhood together, in large part thanks to Yui-jin's efforts and his presence being a great bunigi maker. And a lot of these secondary characters I love because they have such a great redemption arc, or gangsang as I say in Korean. Basically, their entire character and personality gets rehabilitated for the better. And these highly skilled, really powerful people end up using their powers for good. All thanks to Yui-jin's intervention into their lives. And you see this so many times, you start to wonder, do I even know who the villain is in this story? Because whether it's a former ally or a newfound adversary, so many characters come in because they are working for the wrong side. But once they go up against Ijin and they can't defeat him, and he shows mercy to them, they recognize that maybe they didn't have to go down the path that they did. Maybe they shouldn't have taken on the dirty jobs that they have in the past. And because of the awakening of their moral conscience, they start to live a little more upright. They start to do more good things. And oftentimes they end up completely siding with good. And so the number of characters who are really powerful, but also working on the side of good, keeps on increasing. And it just makes you really happy to be someone who knows you're rooting for the right team. And in terms of secondary characters, one I want to highlight as being particularly well written is our female lead. I'd say that with quotation marks because really the story is just about Ijin and the rest of the characters are secondary. But this character I would say is the female lead, mainly because she has the most potential to become our male lead's love interest, although there's no reason to believe that there will be any romantic lines developing at all throughout the course of this webtoon. But this character is a beautiful girl. She is a chaebol. She comes from one of the wealthiest families in Korea. She has power, she has money, and she has the looks. And then her characterization goes against almost every stereotype you would see about this kind of character. She is a rich girl, but she is kind and super protective of another girl in her school who is an orphan and basically been wangtad or ostracized by the rest of her class thanks to the influence of some bullies. She's hands down the most beautiful and powerful girl in the school, yet she does not think it above herself to just go and hang out with a bunch of average guys in her class who want to go and play video games after school. There are just many ways in which her character could have gone sideways and been written another way that would kind of be annoying, but instead they made her really just this person that almost seems like an anomaly when you look at how dramas and webtoons generally characterize these kind of characters in the past. And so she's a great example of how, in general, all of the characters in this webtoon are just written so likably and so digestibly. And so the characters here, very spot on, 5 out of 5, I love it. Now moving on to the storytelling. I would give the storytelling here a 4.5 out of 5. And this webtoon audience-wise is very male-oriented, which means there's no real romance and there's a lot of fighting. Like I said before, the genre is saida, and that comes out the most in the epic fight scenes where good constantly is prevailing and our main character is constantly showing that he is the baddest guy around. Now, me personally, I'm an idealist, and so I particularly really love stories in which good guys almost always win and never suffer any major losses. And so I am currently loving the survival rate of the characters so far. We are about 200 plus chapters in, and the smallness of the number of good characters who have been killed off in this story is like music to my eyes, because I can totally see how logical it would be for so many of the characters we've seen so far to have died off, given all of the crazy antics they've gone through, all of the very close calls and dangerous situations they've been in. There's honestly no reason for so many of them to actually have just scraped by and made it out alive. But I'm always so happy when they do, when the characters I really love are at the edge of death, but they actually get saved. And so this webtoon is almost excessively optimistic and has insane survival stories, but I'm loving every bit of it. Now, a lot of the story is told in flashbacks. Honestly, about like a good 30-40% of the webtoon is just flashbacks. And one great use of these flashbacks is that you get to see how Yoo-jin has always been constantly sincere, kind to people, constantly showing mercy, and that sincerity and kindness is now constantly coming back in his favor in the form of people who are really helping him out and showing him mercy and teaming up with him to protect his newfound happy life with his family. And the writer of the story has perfect timing for writing a hero story. As in, when all hope is lost and the person is right at the edge of themselves, bam, that's when Ijin shows up at the time when people need him the most. He's always there to save the day, and it never loses its tension. It's never like too much. It's never like, oh, this is so unrealistic. And the moment that Ijin shows up to save the day, you're like, boom, that was epic. What an epic entrance. What an epic takedown. Such great action storytelling. And even though we know that Ijin is really powerful and really skilled, there's a great pacing in the escalation of the dangerous situations he gets into as the story progresses. Like, we start up with Ijin having to deal with more regular high schooler drama, like school bullies and things like that, and you see him easily take them down. And then that escalates into him dealing with local mobsters and the gangs of the streets of Korea. And you still see they're like, wow, he can even overtake them. And then as more of his history is unraveled and some of the most dangerous figures in his past are showing up, and you see that he's even able to conquer them. But it's like a slow burn to still like, wow, just how high does his skill level reach and who can actually take him down? You start to wonder. And so it's great because every time there's a new conflict, like, you can't 100% say like, oh, he got this in the bag, because like each new adversary is stronger than the previous one. And so a new revelation of just how powerful Ijin is keeps getting unlocked with each new character arc. Now, there's one thing that is a little so-so about the storytelling, which is that there are some arcs that feel like filler arcs. Like, it starts and it begins, and it doesn't really necessarily move the plot any further. There are characters who come in for their arc and don't really come back again, at least not so far. The story's still ongoing. You never know. They could come back like 100 episodes later. But really, it was just a very tightly contained story that, like, it's great to show more to the backstory and character depth of Ijin and the other characters, but without that arc there, you can just entirely take out that entire chunk of chapters and you wouldn't lose anything along the greater trajectory of the story. And so that kind of comes in and dampens the momentum of the story. But even still, most of the filler arcs are enjoyable to read, contained in and of themselves. And so lastly, I'm going to talk about the artwork. Now, the artwork, I'm going to give it about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't have any particular problem with the artwork. I will say that it's not really mind-blowing art skills or amazing attention to detail, but the important details are contained all within the artwork. There's nothing that's missing. The colors are vibrant and fleshed out. Sometimes characters' details are really highlighted, and in other scenes of characters who are more roughly sketched, you'll have more unimportant details like eyes just completely not drawn. But I will say that the fight scenes are drawn really well and staged really well. They are drawn at good angles so that you can tell exactly what's going on in the fight. Like, you can tell who is hitting who has the upper hand in this fight, who doesn't, where we are. In some webtoons, you often get action scenes that are too zoomed in, so you get a lot of pow, bam, and exciting words showing up on the screen. But then you're actually like, okay, but what just hit what? What is happening? What happened in this fight? Who's winning? Who hit who? And so that's not this one. It's very good. They give a nice zoomed out view so that you're able to fully appreciate just how well the characters are able to combat. I would say that in general, the characters are for the most part good looking, but not over the top. A lot of the boys are handsome proportion wise. The girls are drawn cute and even attractively, but it's not in a distracting way. I know in some male oriented webtoons, they go a little too far in accentuating the parts of the women, so much so that it distracts from the plot of the story, which is like, this is not a romance, this is an action and a school drama, so why are we accentuating body parts? And so this webtoon doesn't really do that. It draws the girls cute and attractive, but not focus pulling, and the guys too are decent looking, but it's more about the actions that they're doing than the way their body looks when they're doing it. Okay, the sun is going down, so I'm going to quickly say my overall rating for this webtoon is like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is one of my all-time favorite webtoons, and even now I'm still enjoying every bit of it. As the series is not completed, who knows what that rating will become. But overall, I would say for this webtoon, it's definitely worth the read. Like I said, the characters are amazing. The storytelling is so good. I myself have even reread this webtoon. It's 200 plus episodes and still going. And I've gone through the entire webtoon more than once because sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'm going like, oh man, remember that one great fight scene or that one heroic epic moment? I want to go through that whole arc again, and I'll go back and reread it all over again just to get that satisfying Saida moment. This is truly a textbook Saida the webtoon, and so if you're looking for that feeling of satisfaction when you're reading a webtoon, this is definitely the one for you. With that ends my review of 입학용병. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to hear more English language reviews of Korean language webtoons, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.